Welcome to the Smoking Rope Podcast. Today we got episode 76. I'm your host, Ryan Basor, and back on the show, the outlaw, Josey Scoggin. Josey, thanks for being back on.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Tom, up in Real Leaf, what's going on behind you?
A portal is opening in the wall, apparently. What's going on? Hi, Josey.
Hi, Todd.
What happened to Kevin?
I can't get my screen to fix. I'm here.
Okay, well, we can see True, and Kevin's here. Kevin, what's happening over there?
Not much. I'm just trying to figure this out. I screwed up, but I'm getting it worked out here.
All right. So Josey's back. She's obviously been on the show a couple times and was on the telethon last week. Had a 10-minute slot. We got to learn a lot about what was going on. And thanks everyone that participated. Thanks to Tom and Kevin and the other podcast. That was a great success. We raised a lot of money. We'll be doing it again, 420. Start hitting us up if you want to get a slot. Times will sell out. And, I wanted to just have Josey back on to talk about all the cool things that she's doing with the Redemption Foundation, Great Lakes Expungement Network, and also Sons and Daughters United, and then anything else you're doing that we don't know about, Josey. So thanks, Josey, for coming on, and why don't you tell us about the holiday shopping drive?
Sweet. Thanks for having me. This is our 6th annual holiday drive. This year we teamed up with the Redemption Foundation. And like everything the Redemption Foundation does, it was bigger and better than ever before. We reached out and were able to help 17 families across the state this year. The cannabis industry is a pretty easy industry to fundraise in terms of finding compassionate business owners and people that want to get invested in their community. If you have a cannabis shop and you are looking at ways to beef up your social equity plan, hit us up. There's a lot of really great ways to get involved with some things that you're already doing. We teamed up this year with a variety of new shops. So every year we team up with people like Herbology and the Botanical Company. And this year we also added Nobo and Dudes Abide, and Stone Depot to our crew. Our friends at Relief threw in a very hefty donations, or Real Leaf, sorry. It was super generous. And Krista, believe this or not, but Krista did a birthday fundraiser for us on Facebook. If you guys are looking for some fun ways to make some extra funds for your favorite nonprofits, make sure that you do a birthday fundraiser or a personal fundraiser. We get 100% of these funds. And also it lets your friends know what organizations mean the most to you.
Thank you, Josey. Why don't dive in a little bit about what those 17 families are going to get, some of the stories of how it's helping people. So, we went out shopping a few Fridays ago. That was fun. I know I was only there for an hour, and you've done it probably about 40 hours. So just what's the process like? How does it work? And, give us some examples of the way we're going to be helping people.
Yeah, so when we started Sons and Daughters United, I thought it was going to be cool or fun or like rewarding in some way. But it's sad, and the people I meet are sad, and the shit we do is sad, and everything that they're going through is difficult, and there really isn't a solution or outlooks that are easily accessible or sustainable. So what we do is we every holiday season we find people who already qualify for other grants that we're doing. So our 2 main grants are our Renee Wolf Memorial Grant, which helps people with disabilities obtain medical equipment. I use like medicine, doctor's visits, anything like that. And then our Family Connection Grant, which people whose loved ones are incarcerated, connected through J-Pay payments, travel expenses, stationery, things like that. So when you sign up, you have to have either a disability or somebody in your household incarcerated, you're automatically enrolled into these programs. So, everyone that came to us with an incarcerated parent, and 1 in 12 children have an incarcerated parent sometime over the year, which is a staggering number. Um, we automatically enroll you in that. We pay for travel expenses and the whole shebang. And then for people with disabilities, so this year we had a young lady who is 23. She has Parkinson's, which is a struggle on her own, but also a 3-year-old son. And so I went over there. I met her. She's sleeping on her couch because she has to sleep sitting up. So I talked to Ryan. Ryan was like, "Why don't we buy her a bed?" So we bought her an adjustable hospital bed. We had a girl who was blind, and she's trying, just like sighted children, she's learning the alphabet. But there aren't a lot of toys that are either accessible or affordable that can teach the Braille alphabet. So we invested almost $1,500 just in Braille learning utensils. These are things that other places aren't doing, right? So if you go to the Salvation Army, um, which is I love what they do, and I love that it's an accessible organization in most communities, but they're not really personalizing it, but they're also not getting the things that the kids need. Something that we discuss a lot is when something like this happens, like incarceration or moving, the first thing to go is the kids' shit, right? Like, no one's carrying on with a bunch of toys and bogus stuff. That's always the first thing to get gone. So for some of our families, for one family in particular, reemerging from incarceration after a drug arrest, 3 children, just moving into our first forever home, no beds, right? She was like, all the kids want sleeping bags. I was like, what kind of sleeping bags do they want? She's like, I don't care. We're sleeping on the floor. Ryan was like, let's buy beds. That's been his thing the whole time. So it's really creating lifelong change, right? These are beds that are going to be used for the next 10 years. These are coats that the kids will wear for years to come. And also it's that memory of some of these clients last Christmas. So every year we have a couple of clients that we don't get to see next year. So when we're creating something that is all encompassing and it does all this stuff, and this is what I get a lot, like, how do people with disabilities and people who are incarcerated get linked into the same mission, right? And the idea is these are 2 groups of people who rely on policy and really the government for everyday life. These are also, interesting enough, what were the 2 most highly affected groups in the pandemic? It was people with disabilities and people who are incarcerated. Again, these are the people that are dying at higher rates. These are the people that are getting infected at a higher rate. And the reason is because the laws and policies that are in place are not there to protect them or to create a lifestyle where they can thrive. So Sons and Daughters create safety nets to kind of make up where people are falling through the cracks.
Thanks, Josey. And I love hearing you talk about it. And, you know, it's been a pleasure to be a part of it this year. And next year we're gonna plan 6 months ahead, and we're gonna knock it out of the park, and let's get 50 families, and we should really get it all over the state, as well. So wanted to also touch on the great work we're doing with Great Lakes Expungement Network, and that was really me and you talked on the phone, and I told you we want to expunge records, and you were like, all right, let's do it, and you took the ball and ran, and of course we had incredible help from Josh Covert and Covert Law and everybody over there in the office, and along with Paul Tillin and others. So just kind of take us to the beginning of Glenn and what we've been doing, so everybody knows.
Oh, I'm so proud. This is like the best year. I've done a lot of really cool stuff. I've been at the right place at the right time in a lot of situations. I legalized marijuana. I thought that was going to be the coolest thing I ever did, right? But this has by far been the best experience of my life. There is a question on whether or not Ryan hit me up and said, hey, I want to expunge some records in Benton Harbor, or hey, Josey, create a expungement program. But I am so proud. I'm proud of 2 things, right? I'm proud to be a part of an organization that really gets it. Even if I pay for your attorney and fill out the application, you probably still don't have the money to get fingerprinted or to get the notary or to pay the application fee itself, right? But a lot of these, there's zero full service expungement programs that are in existence in the state of Michigan besides us. This means we pay for the whole process, we walk you through it. This idea that we have, which is, hey, you could go do this by yourself, is embarrassing, right? It's difficult because I have 8 law firms with multiple attorneys who don't agree on the process, and nothing is really the same in each county. We have over 300 clients. We have a 100% success rate with misdemeanor marijuana expungements. That means if you were caught smoking weed in your grandma's basement in 94, hit me up. I'm going to expunge all of your misdemeanor marijuana stuff without a blink of an eye. But we do more than that, right? Because the idea is 70% of people who go through the system go back into the system. So once you get popped for marijuana at some point in your life, you're probably going to get caught for something else. And so this idea that we would just do marijuana crimes didn't really sit well with Ryan or myself. The idea was, hey, these people are affected by cannabis prohibition. They ended up in court here because of their cannabis use. How can we expunge these records, right? Through this, we have built a phenomenal team of attorneys, criminal defense attorneys, volunteers. So 100% of our volunteers at the network went through the program, said, hey, this is the shit, I want to do this too, and then came on board. And not only are they raising money, they're pulling records, they're working on this on a day-to-day basis. And the only contribution, or the only thing they're really getting out of it is to be a part of something that is much bigger than ourselves, right? So every day I get a phone call from somebody. Kevin called me a couple weeks ago and said, Josey, it happened. They expunged all my marijuana crimes. And the thrill and the joy, he said, I gotta go. I said, what, you gotta call more people and tell them? He said, yes. But this is something that I'm proud of, that our team is proud of, that the companies we work with are proud of. But most importantly, this is something that our clients, their families, their friends, their aunties are proud of. This is something that they're talking about at their holiday table. Hey, what's new with you? Oh, nothing, just record free. Congratulations on that, by the way, Kevin. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.
I think, sorry, I'm always talking. Like, I never stop talking. That's why when you call the Great Lakes Expungement Network, it's me on the other end, because I just talk the whole time. But I think we are in such a revolutionary period here in Michigan and across the United States, where we're really looking at the incarceration rates and the way that they affect, number one, the people that are incarcerated, but number two, the families and the support systems that surround them, right? Because that's really who's hurting, is the people on the outside who committed no crimes. And a lot of times these people that are on the inside also committed no crimes, statistically speaking. I'm so excited to work directly with the Great Lakes Expungement Network, but also to grow with the Expungement Network, which is something that I've actually had the privilege to do my whole life, right? Like, I started this at 14. I went to the MICIA gala, and they were like pulling up pictures of my 15th birthday. I was like, put those away. No, thank you. But I'm really blessed to grow up and evolve with such progressive organizations, and then to be able to do the one thing I've always wanted to do, right? Which is provide resources for people who otherwise would have none. This is the coolest thing I've ever done. I would not be able to do it without people who are number one, funding it, obviously, but also without people that are committed to it and that believe in it. So being denied for, I mean, Kevin, I don't know how many times you probably got denied for expungements, but most people, about 87% of people in the last expungement period, were not eligible at all, and less than 5% went through with expungement, right? To be denied for decades and still have the courage to go out and apply and try again, that's what keeps it rolling. That's the heart and soul of it, right? These are people who never got to go to a daddy-daughter dance, who never chaperoned a field trip, who have who are geniuses and educated and have the ability to do all of these things, but will never exceed in the places where their skills meet, just based on a criminal record that they acquired at any point in their lives, but usually before they were 25, right? So I'm just so appreciative to be a part of real change. I want everyone to go out there and make Great Lakes Expungement Network your charity on Amazon Smile. We get 0.5% of all the purchases that you make. Just shop like normal. Go shoot us a donation on Facebook. We get 100% of those donations too. Or if you have a cannabis company and you are really looking at ways to stand out and to exceed in your social equity plan, hit us up. Not only do we provide this service in every single county in Michigan, but we provide this to people who are local, who shop in your stores, who know who you are. So I'm just really excited about this. Thank you guys for including me. Thanks for funding it. Thanks for going through the program. That's how it works, right? We can have an idea all day long, but if people don't have the courage to go through with it and the courage to fund it, then we'll never get any further.
Man. I have a question for you, though. Do you have what are your thoughts on nationally, like creating like a structure with the expungement network? Do you see other groups in other states still actively working, or even on the national level, as states, decriminalize completely cannabis, and then hopefully as it's federally decriminalized, that, this is like a framework that you can apply to each state that's already tried and true and proven to help more people across the whole country. And then especially when things come, when federally it changes, still having to fight those battles. And those are all expenses that people at every different level, there's a lot of people out there that are, unfairly doing time for cannabis. And, I think that, do you have any thoughts as far as like expanding this whole idea and working with other states or any of your cohorts and any other expungement programs?
So we are not reinventing the wheel, right? So we didn't create the idea that people deserve to expunge their records. This is something that happens in a lot of other states. But just the issue being, number one, the issue with running an expungement program anywhere, especially nationally, is no criminal record is the same, no court is the same, no process is the same. This is a big barrier is there's no unified process for filing an expungement. So at one place I could just file it and it be done. At another place I have to go back to 1987 and buy a fax machine and fax in my request. We absolutely want to support efforts in other states to expunge records, but a part of creating these programs is ensuring that they're sustainable. And so I think that I was a chair for West Michigan Nonprofit Association from 2018 until 2020. And they're all afraid of cannabis companies, right? We don't know if we can take this money. It's drug money, even if it's legal. Fighting nonprofits in general to really go out and tap into this market is hard. Once we find somebody to go do it, and they're like, oh wait, hey, they give money and they give money easily. Also, the IRS doesn't care. That's different. What I will say is this. If you live in another state and you want to start expunging records, let's find attorneys and let's find cannabis companies. The same model can work in all of these legal states. And they don't have to be recreationally legal, right? I do believe people were equally generous when it was just a medical only market. And here's another thing. When I started expanding our prison support program all over the United States, I was like, I'm going to be in every jail, every juvenile detention facility. There's not anybody that's going to stop me from funding this, right? Like, I got this. The issue was, hey, how do you even budget for something where there's no consistency at all, right? Video calls at one federal center is not the same at video calls at another federal center. In-state, whether public or not, are not the same cost or the same rules or the same regulations. So when we created this program at the time of its inception, it was not sustainable, right? I had this mission to go save the world, and I didn't have the budget to do it because I was unable to budget consistently. Like here's how much it will cost at this prison, here's how much it will cost at that prison. And this idea that I had, which was let's go to every state and let's do it, was not sustainable. It wasn't working. So I went to Michael Ward and I was like, I want to provide free legal care. How do I do it? And we worked together to form something that is so being sustainable is one portion of it, but also being approachable, accessible, having the ability to easily find the application and apply is the other portion. So even if I have all the funding in the world and nobody goes to my website and applies for it, it means nothing. I would also say that 100% of our reach, the way that we've been able to manage in these multi-states, is due to networking with other multi-state operators, right? So, the Drug Policy Alliance conference, I went to my first one when I was 18. It was amazing. It was a lot for me. It was also the first time that I found that these problems that exist here in Michigan are mild compared to the problems that exist across the country. Um, there are a variety of states that don't do expungement at all. And there is no path to redemption. And Michigan, for a long time, was one of those states. In fact, there's only 6 states in the United States, including Michigan, with real comprehensive expungement programs, which means, hey, this works for a majority of the population, right? So we approve 64% of everybody that comes through our applications, right? 64% of everybody has something they can expunge. That's amazing because, as I was saying before, less than 5% of people went through with expungement for the past 30 years of having the previous bill. Um, uh,
Josie, that's you start talking about other states. Something I've been thinking a lot about because we sell a lot of products to people from Indiana across the border, and like Wisconsin and Minnesota and Ohio, and those people from that are driving across their state lines buying a lot of Michigan cannabis, they're putting themselves at risk and of getting more charges. In the meantime, them buying the products are helping Michigan cannabis, victims of the cannabis war in Michigan. It's kind of ironic. I don't know if ironic, but it's just a weird situation where I want to help those people as soon as possible. So you made me think about that with the other states. And
yeah, so think about this, right? You go to this is exactly what Ryan's saying. You go purchase marijuana legally. This guy makes $24 million this year. You go home, get arrested, and now you have a criminal record in Indiana, of all places, where you can't get it expunged. You can't do anything about it. And there are no services in your state, right? I think I get so engrossed in the cannabis community, and I believe that everyone and their mother smokes pot, and they think I should too. But the reality is that that's not how it is. And this is real pioneer shit. Traveling across, Midwest best, going to all the way up to Michigan, purchasing as much extremely expensive marijuana as possible, and driving back is real courageous bullshit. And I remember doing this in Colorado and like stuff in the car, and I mean, not me, of course, officers, but it was cool. It was revolutionary. It was fucking dangerous. And there are no services for these people. If you get caught in Indiana, you have a record in Indiana. There's no expungement process. There's nothing you can do about it. And you will spend time in jail, right? My dad spent 2.5 months in county jail this year for having a joint. I mean, that's just how it is. Thank you, South Bend, Indiana Police Force. We are privileged in so many ways to live in Michigan outside of cannabis, I think. Y'all know I'm a gander lover, but we are so privileged to exist in a community where we aren't thinking about these things that Ryan's bringing up, which is, hey, people are coming here, they're purchasing marijuana, and statistically, somebody has to get busted, right? It's impossible for all of these people. And I live right here in Southwest Michigan, where literally over 75% of all of our sales at these shops are out-of-state recreational users, which is great. I mean, that's fantastic. also entered the same products that you could get here in Buchanan, where I live, are approximately 40 to 50% more expensive than what they are up in Lansing or in Jackson or in these places that aren't border towns, right? So not only are we getting them over here, getting them to spend all their money here, we're charging them an astronomical amount, way more than a typical wholesale markup, and providing zero resources to invest back in their communities, which is, I guess, okay in some of these places, but it's absolutely not okay when we are 3 miles from the Indiana border, like we are here in Buchanan, like they are out in Coldwater, like they are in Constantine, and these places where I'm local, but the operators are not. So you've got all these big cannabis companies that are coming in, and really taking advantage of these out-of-state markets in many ways, right? Charging them more money, but also knowing that they're taking this stuff back to their own home, and that they're really in line for prosecution for that.
Yeah, that's something that needs to be thought of more, and just really dawned on me. Because I'm looking, to get the message out before these states get legal, and trying to get things stirred up, and thank them for supporting us, and I don't know if it's gonna help them get legal faster or what, but it's I'm just not gonna travel to those states if I poke too hard, I guess. But hey, Josie, you brought something up, just made me think about it. I really didn't get to know you until am I legalized, and I remember I was in prison still, and I remember here, and it was like Rick and Jamie and Robin and Tim and a bunch of people came visiting me, and they're talking about running, going for legalization, statewide. No funding, just going to go out and collect 300,000 signatures and go for it, which sounds about right for everybody back then. Jeff Hank, and it took that craziness or just that belief in having to do it, I guess, to get what it did. So you were on the board. Tell us about what that was like, especially I believe you were maybe just 18 at the time, young, and when it first started, and going around and talking about things like that. But then really that groundwork we laid and all those signatures and all that network, that made, at that point, MPP kind of had an easier task than normal. It's a little bit different. Normally nobody goes for legalization without a lot of funding. So what was that like?
So, first of all, it was amazing. I was 18 at the time. I was the youngest person in the room. I always was, though. I was always the youngest person in the room. I was one of two visibly disabled people at any point, any function that I ever went to, right? And that was speaking highly. And I was most often one of the only women there, right? And it was this big thing where, and I had started it really in the beginning, which is I have a disability in order to exist in this industry, which is the industry I want to build. So picture me 17 years old. A couple of years earlier, I had flown out to DC, and they had taught me about safe access and how to speak about safe access, and really ways to try to convince legislators or the general public that medical marijuana worked and that it's worked for me. I am both visibly and obviously disabled, which is a group of people that do get exploited here in the cannabis industry, right? I had launched Sons and Daughters United just in a couple months prior, after meeting Ashley DeBall and realizing that there was a need for it. And I was really running around the state, and I was doing two things. Number one, um, I just kind of have this thing about, and Ryan will tell you, I just get in and I get the work done, and I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, I love to work. I love data. I love spreadsheets. I was going to state that semester, so I just was also spending all of my money and all my time doing things that weren't cool. So we had done a couple legalization initiatives in cities, right? And we were trying to do one in Benton Harbor, which we will talk about a whole other time because I need all the time in the world to complain about that situation. But at the time, we wanted to do the first 18 and up, right? All my friends are either have been arrested or were currently in jail at that time for just smoking pot. I'm from Ann Harbor. I grew up in and around the area. And so I always have this soft spot um, for the folks down here. Anyways, I had met with Chuck Reeb, and we had begun talking about legalization and the way that it would look. And the idea, just like Ryan said, was I was like, okay, well, how much money do we have? When's NPP coming in? They're like, we have no money. NPP's not coming in. We think we could do this, all by ourselves. So I went to a meeting, and I was actually elected on the board. And the idea was people are going to talk about what about the kids? Where do the kids fit in? And Sons and Daughters United would be there to be like, hey, we also are thinking about the kids, but in a different way. And that cannabis prohibition really is for the children. And that the only people that benefit from criminalized cannabis are the cops and the drug dealers. I mean, that's really all that it is. Of course, I hate using the word drug dealer, but that's what it was at the time, right? Just like in the 1990s, my mom was a terminally ill patient using cannabis, but she was not a cannabis patient. She was a drug user. Like that's the terminology that they used. When we finally put together the board, we had this really great meeting, and I remember Jeff Hanks saying, "We're going to collect 350,000 signatures," and I felt it in my soul, right? So we really hit the ground running. And there's two things about legalization that I knew right off the bat. Number one, um, we were going to create the best legalization initiative to ever hit the United States. Not the best, the world. Not the best of the Midwest. Not best second to whoever. We weren't the first ones. We didn't have to go through all the growing pains of Colorado. Number two, we already saw all the growing pains. We already know what's bullshit and what's not. We were going to hit the ground running, and we were going to run the first grassroots campaign to do it. We immediately hit the floor. We started raising money. We hired Chris Silver to be the campaign manager. We had our first big fundraiser at the golf course out in Ann Arbor.
Yep.
And I do have this thing about dinners, right? We put on a whole bunch of really high priced dinners, black tie dinners, and people would like show up in a shorts and t-shirts, and Chris would be like, "Oh, are they supposed to wear them?" I'm like, they gave us $5,000. I don't give a fuck what they wear, right? But this is how the whole thing was funded. We raised $100,000 or $1 million through people we knew, through caregiver growth, through people who saw a future in cannabis and saw that future to be here in Michigan, right? And then we went out to other places and we were like, hey, just so you know, Michigan has 3 times the population of Colorado. Like, this is where it's at. I got involved with my Legalize and with legalizing marijuana here in Michigan because I am a true gander, right? I love Michigan. I think we have the best weed, the most accessible industry. Obviously, we also have a lot of other cool things. We have waterfalls, mountains. We grow more apples than anybody else. I'm on the Michigan trade. But what we do better than anybody else is we truly root for the underdog, right? The idea. And that's why we all have a Lions jersey in our closet. Right? We don't have to win it all the time to feel like we're winning.
Yeah.
Look at that. So,
That's awesome, Josie.
when we lost not the election, but it didn't go through.
Right.
There was not a single person that was like, "Oh fuck, that's not gonna work." All of us were like, "Hey, just another day here at the Lions, another chance to come back for redemption." So we teamed up. Ryan will tell you that we tried to legalize marijuana without Robin. It did not fucking work. She came through. She got it done.
Yep.
But it was more than just the logistics portions of it, right? It was the people that went out and collected signatures for a whole goddamn year, lost, and said, "Hey, I'll do it again." Went out and collected more signatures.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it got us to legalization, right?
Yeah, it wasn't just it was a group of, I remember thinking about it in terms. I mean, it was a war. You know, not a war where you get shot at most of the time, but
Sometimes you do, though.
sometimes
Really.
you do. But like, yeah, I remember thinking, you know, I felt like they were trying to cut me off, put me away, and maybe stop some of this stuff, and start doing that to a lot of people, and they thought that would work with Bouchard and everybody going and Shooty going nuts, but it just created just a monster, like where so many more people got involved. And I remember getting out of prison, and I was just like, holy shit, look at how many of these new people that were involved. It was nuts. You know,
Yeah.
most people didn't know who I was. I had to reintroduce myself again to some of them, but anyways, I got to wrap up. I do have a hard out. I want to thank Josey for coming back on. But before we go, I want to let Kevin and Tom say goodbye. I'll let Tom go so Kevin doesn't steal all his thunder.
Oh, just love you guys. You know, it's great hearing, you know, all the stories and, you know, what got us here, and just to see you carry on, Josey, with, you know, just the flames of, you know, keep pushing change and making sure that, you know, we keep our eyes on the prize, and that's making sure that everyone that has been harmed by the war on drugs is vindicated in some freaking way in their lives, and given given respect. And that's the whole thing, is, you know, equal dignity for everyone. And, you know, we love everything that you do. You have our support always, and you know, can't wait till we get to hang out.
Kevin.
Yeah, you know what Tom said basically. Yeah, you know, I think it's great what you're doing, Josey. I feel like, and I've brought this up several times in the past, that we have a responsibility beyond just marijuana to help change other things and to do better for other people. We're very fortunate to be able to work in an industry we love, and it can be quite lucrative at times. And so to give back outside of that, to people with disabilities, people that are incarcerated, maybe not even for marijuana, but I think that we still should be helping where we can. I wanted to thank you, Josey, for continuing to bring expungement to the forefront. Back 10 years ago, I applied for a FedEx route. 9.5 years earlier, I had gotten caught with 0.05 grams of weed. And it came up on my application to buy that route, and they denied me my route. And it kind of changed the path of my life. You know, I was going to do that route, go back to school. Instead, I ended up working full time in marijuana, and went in that direction. But expungement's incredibly important. And if you're considering doing it, get it done, get it off your record, and move forward with your life. So, Josey, thanks a lot for all that you're doing for marijuana, and for everybody out there outside of the marijuana industry with disabilities and people that are incarcerated. So, thanks.
Josey, any quick final goodbyes?
Did you see that invitation for me to go to Calcushka? I'm going to be up there smoking weed with Tom. Please go to the GreatLakesExpungementNetwork.org. Apply for your friends. Apply for your auntie. Shoot us a donation. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Thanks again, Josey. We'll 2022 we're gonna do a lot more work. We're really getting a lot of momentum here at the end of the year, and I appreciate everything. And
Thank you.
thanks also to Kevin and Tom for all the support. So, with that, we will see you next week.